Hi, so we're joined by AJ Singh, Senior Director of Product Management and Global Analytics Business at Nokia. AJ, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So we're here at the Telco AI Summit Asia. How are you enjoying the conference so far?
I think it's a great event, and it's really brought together the whole ecosystem, and it's really covering the challenges, aspirations, as well as the advancements that we have. So it's really bringing the ecosystem together. So it's a fantastic forum here, both from an Asian perspective and also with a smattering of global perspectives.
Wonderful. I mean, what do you see as the main challenges for telcos implementing AI in their business?
I think the first and foremost, like I also covered in my morning session, is really the mindset. And then I would say, I think after the mindset, I would say essentially is, as some of the speakers also mentioned earlier in the conversation, is a desire to see the outcomes very quickly. And lastly, but not the least, I would say is also, especially from this region's perspective, is the paucity of skill sets and the right combination of skill sets and entrepreneurship to make things happen.
Interesting. And maybe this touches on some of the points you've already just mentioned, but what is the right AI strategy to follow for operators?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting conversation, and I would say time will tell what shall be the right strategy. And as they say, strategy is made looking backwards, but life is lived forwards, right? So I'll just give my perspectives there, and let's see in a year's time how we succeeded. I think, I think there are a few things, right? I think the first thing is, like I said, you really need to probably, it's time for us to open up the industry a bit in terms of introducing skill sets and seeing what's working in other industries, like in e-commerce, search space, and really bring those skills inside the industry. And I think our industry has been a little bit slow in welcoming skill sets from outside. I think that would be the first recommendation that I would see, right? And the second part would be dismantling. I think the industry has been quite a lot about capex driven, and you want to really build things like many of our colleagues said from a operator community. I would say we have to really focus on the outcomes and see how those outcomes really be outcome driven rather than being, hey look, it's not invented here and I need to invent myself. I think I would be seeing that these would be two recommendations I would say to really fast pace and really bring the right amount of creativity and right kind of accountability and ROI to the conversation.
Okay. And so what's Nokia's global and local from an Asia or APAC perspective for sort of the AI vision?
Okay, see, I think our AI vision, like I think it's also aligning with today's morning session as well, is really driven by a few things, right? I think the first part is we really want to decouple the revenue and the cost position, right? 5 years coming, and and there is a lot of investment that operators need to do there. We would want to really decouple the cost situation, whether it is on the network equipment, it's on the operations and so on, by the help of AI. And I think AI is the only answer by which there's decoupling between the investments required and the cost situation. So I think that would be first part of the vision that we have. I think second part of the vision that we have is, as I said, being just in time and being a outcome as a service partner. I think we clearly see that is the way to go. Trying to build and reinvent the wheel in tiny little pockets and islands all around the world, 600 operators around the world, doesn't make sense, right? That's the way industry is. Now coming to, so these are the two, broad elements of the vision that we have globally. Now coming from an Asian perspective, and I'm just reflecting back to an earlier part of the conversation, we still have a skill deficit in Asia, right? And here I am kind of taking out China specifically, or for that matter, even parts of India. I'm talking about, let's say, ASEAN, I'm talking about Australia and so on. From Asian perspective, I think we have a skill deficit, and we have to really see how do we address that particular skill deficit. And as part of our global strategy, this is, Asia or Singapore is one of our key areas where we are introducing talent and bringing in the people as well, right? But that is one part from an Asian perspective. I think the second part from an Asian perspective is there is a tremendous amount of, I would say, cost aspiration and a cost leadership which is required. And coupled with that, I think there is a relative ignorance about a practical vision of AI. So our view would be A, to bring in talent locally from ASEAN perspective, and two, helping bridge and bring a practical view to the expectations from AI and help build operators a roadmap of AI introduction.
Okay. And as a last point before I let you go, you delivered our opening keynote address at the conference today around paving the way to an AI-driven digital transformation.
That's right.
What were the key takeaways from your presentation?
Well, right. I think, thanks for asking this. I think from my three key takeaways that I want the audience to take is with the structure of working as a collaborative ecosystem between the analytics providers like us, the data ownership like the operators, and the end users like the CMO and the CTO. So the three takeaways that we had, the first and foremost, which I've been repeating quite a lot, it's all about people, right? We need to get the people right, we need to get the transformation right? So that is extremely important. I can't stress on the need further of bringing the AI mindset and how we introduce, right? I think the second part of this takeaway would be, I think, on looking as analytics or outcome as a service. Not trying to really build everything on your own, but trying to see how you can collaborate. Because important part of AI, which I would reflect from the conversation there, was it's about the repeatability of AI that has to happen, what is happening in Europe to coming to Asia, and then what happens in Asia going to Africa, right? And indeed, the last part of my takeaway here is that AI is pervasive, and that's probably the only answer towards decoupling the situation that we have and the requirements that we have as the industry goes towards 5G.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for your time, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So we're joined by Pedro Uria Recio from Axiata, who is the head of analytics there. Pedro, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It has been very exciting to be here.
Brilliant. How have you found the conference so far?
I found it very exciting. There are people from all the operators in Malaysia. There are people also from many operators in Southeast Asia and even Australia, right? So it's something really international, and a lot of interesting presentations about how to use AI from a technical point of view, from a business point of view. Very, very well-rounded.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I mean, from your perspective, what do you see as the key trends and strategies for telcos who are looking to implement AI in the space?
Yeah, so in marketing, for example, we are seeing a number of use cases. So we are seeing a lot of telcos implementing next best action models. We are seeing a lot of telcos implementing credit scoring, right? In network, obviously the key use case is CapEx planning. CapEx planning for me is probably the use case that has at this moment the biggest potential in telecommunications. How do you optimize your CapEx by using AI? And the other one will be anomaly detection on the network side. Anomaly detection can be used to predict maintenance faults. And also to manage incidents, right? When we go to customer service, there are a lot of telcos that are working with chatbots. Some of them are starting to work with voice bots or video bots, and some people are working as well, or a lot of telcos are working as well in fraud, analytics for fraud detection with dealers, etc., right? And then we can go to digital analytics, where a lot of telcos are working on understanding and analyzing customer journeys through digital channels. Yeah, so these are the key things that we have seen here in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been spoken about a lot today. Obviously, we had you deliver one of our keynote addresses in the morning around the top 25 mistakes that the telcos make when implementing their analytics programs. What were some of the key takeaways from that presentation?
Well, I grouped the 25 mistakes in 5 groups, right? Strategy, human resources, execution, technology, and finance, right? When it comes to strategy, I will say that the main problem or the main mistake telcos make is typically trying to solve problems that are not really a problem, right? Trying to use analytics without knowing what they are using them for, rather than having a problem and then finding a solution through data for that problem. When it comes to people, I think the biggest challenge or the biggest mistake is having a technology-only team rather than a team that is multidisciplinary, where you have technology people, where you have business people in marketing, in network, etc. When it comes to execution, I think the biggest challenge is agile, using agile methodology so that you can have impact faster, right? Then when it comes to technology, well, technology is not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is people. That's why I dedicated much more time to the other categories of mistakes than to technology. And finally, finance. In finance, it is fundamental to be able to measure the impact of each one of the use cases that you implement. Otherwise, you might be spending your time in things that are not bringing value to the business. So this will be some of the 25 mistakes that I covered in my presentation.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay. Pedro, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.